Hi there, and welcome to Sweet Tea Traveler. I'm Tracy Burton, where we talk about all things all inclusives, ocean cruising, and river cruising. And so today I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I love to pack when I'm ocean cruising. So let's dive in. You get that? Dive in. Today we're going to be touching on some of the things that I love to pack for a cruise. And so these are some suggestions that I do make to my clients. You can kind of take it or leave it to some of your favorite things, but hopefully this is helpful for you. So the first thing that I recommend when to my guests who are cruising is to take a credit card. So you don't want to use a debit card when you're going onto the ship, and a lot of times they'll ask you to place a hold, with a credit card or give them some type of credit card for any type of transactions that you may have on the ship. And they're going to place a hold on a certain amount for possible incidentals that you might purchase while you're on the ship. And so if you have a debit card, it could mean that you're not going to have access to all of your funds while that hold is being used. And it could take up to a couple of weeks for it to be released. And so a lot of times for that reason, I do suggest to my clients just to use a credit card when cruising. Also, not only that, when you're traveling internationally and you want to purchase gifts as you're going over, to other countries, if you use your debit card, it could flag an alert. Plus, you're probably going to get charged international fees. And so the best thing to do is if you have more than one credit card, or even if you just have one, call the credit card company and find out what their international fees are, because a lot of credit card companies do charge you a percentage for an international rate. And there are some travel cards. I have one, Capital One, that I use in a Marriott that do not charge me international fees. And so it just depends, but it's best just to call and ask your credit card how much in international fees that they'll be charging you, just so you're aware when you're out and about using your card. And speaking of souvenirs, one great thing to do is if you want to pack less, take a little duffel bag that's empty, or a backpack or something like that, and put it into your suitcase, like if you're checking a bag or your carry-on, and then you'll have an extra bag for your souvenirs. And then you can just use your little duffel bag of souvenirs as a carry-on if you already are not maxed out on your carry-on. Plus, you want to bring small bills like ones, fives, and tens. When you're going on these excursions with the tour guides, it's usually customary to thank them with a tip at the end of the tour. Completely up to you. It is not something that is mandatory, but it is appreciated. And I also will tip the porter with my luggage as well. I know gratuities are typically included in your cruise, and so you do not have to tip once you're on your cruise, unless you are getting extra drinks or things like that. That was not part of a package. But you can just use your small bills for when you're going off the ship, doing your tours and excursions for tipping, or if you really want to go above and beyond. If your room steward went above and beyond, you can also leave a tip there. Sometimes I will, because I just love my room steward so much, and they were just so helpful, and maybe met some of, I don't know, maybe I had some weird requests that they had to go out of their way to take care of. So, and in that case, I would leave them a little extra cash as a thank you. You also don't forget your sunblock and your hat. You would be surprised how many people go cruising and think, I'm going to be fine, and they just get blistered because they're not used to being out so close to the equator and the sun, and they think they're going to be fine, and they're not. So there is sunblock that you can usually purchase on the ships, but you're going to pay more money on a ship for sunblock than you would if you were just buy it at your local store, your favorite sunblock, before you leave. I love taking hats. I always take a hat with me as well. My husband does too. And so that's another tip that I'll always never forget to pack. And then don't forget to medicines. So your prescription medicine, be sure and keep it in its original bottle that's going to have your name, what the medication is, especially if it's a prescription. Don't be taking out your prescription pills and just sticking them in a Ziploc bag or putting them in a little pill organizer that's not labeled. You want to make sure that your prescriptions are staying where they're labeled and in your name. And then for over-counter medicines, I always take those too. A lot of your ships do carry like Advil and anti-nausea medicine, but I find it best just to have it in my room if I need it. So I usually will take some Advil we all eat a little bit more than we plan on eating on a cruise. So I might take Tums or something like that too, or some type of heartburn medicine just in case I overindulge. But and then also I take seasickness meds because I can get motion sickness. It doesn't hit me often, but when it does, I want to get it taken care of really quick. And so I will usually take Dramamine. There's also a non-drowsy Dramamine that you can take, but certainly ask your doctor. I am not a doctor, and I am not giving you medical advice on what to take for your nausea. It just kind of depends on what works for you and what your doctor says is okay. But is that you can do for anti-nausea. So it just depends, kind of what works for you. And so that's what I would pack, and just be sure and not forget, because you never know. You might hit some rough weather and it get a little bit choppy. And so it's better to be prepared than not. And hopefully you won't need them. I've like needed it like maybe once or twice. So it's not very often. And then snorkel gear. I also love to pack my own snorkel gear. One time I went on an excursion, and I don't know what they use in that chemical, but it was like it made my eyes feel like they were on fire. And so I kept having to rinse my mask over and over and over and over and over, and it didn't really help. And it just kind of ruined my snorkel experience, to be honest. That's the only time it's happened. Most of my snorkeling experiences have been fine. But I never forgot it. And so because my eyes burned so bad on that one, I usually will pack my own snorkel gear now. Plus, it's nice if you're just having a beach day and it's a nice, beautiful water where you are. You could just take your snorkel gear and just go out in the water and snorkel a little bit. And you're not going to have to pay extra to rent snorkel gear on the island that day if the ships are offering that. So just a little helpful tip. Plus, just all the people that put their mouth and you're putting your mouth and I think I'd just rather take my own. And so, but that's just personal preference, something you don't have to do. Another thing that's probably a personal preference is I love these magnetic hooks, or like these little magnetic hooks. You can order them in the pack, and you can put them on your ceiling, you can put them on your wall, you can put them on your door, whatever you want to do all over your cruise. And so I use it to hang my bathing suit when it's wet, so it'll finish drying, or hats, just so I can easily access the hats and it's just not in my way. Many of your showers on your cruise ships will have like this little, you'll see it's like this little string that you can pull out, and you can put it on the other side and hook it to hang wet clothes on. But we all know those showers are not the biggest thing we've ever been when you're cruising. The shower tends to be pretty small most of the time. And so it's nice just to not take up space with the bathing suits hanging in there. And so that's why I love having the little magnetic hooks in the room. So when my bathing suit is just drying, not sopping wet, but when it's starting to dry, I can hang it up in the, on the hooks throughout the room. And I also love to make little cute decors just to make fun. And I'll put it on my door of the cruise ship. And so when I'm trying to find my stateroom, it just makes it a lot easier to spot it from having to count down or count up, as I'm going down the hallway. So it kind of makes it easy when I see the little decoration that I hang on my door. And so far I haven't had anybody mess with it or take it. Of course, it could be because I make it specific to our vacation with my last name or something, but I don't know. I just think it's cute and fun and kind of festive for being in the cruise mood. And so one other thing is a pill organizer. I love using a pill organizer for my jewelry. It's cheap. It keeps it from getting all tangled up. And so I'll use one little section for a necklace, one little section for earrings, because you have all your little boxes, and it's so cheap. It's like $2 for a pill organizer. And then I'm able to pack all my jewelry without it getting tangled up. I didn't have to spend a fortune buying something that would organize my jewelry. Just a cute little hack that I use, not just cruising, but anytime that I travel now, I use my little pill organizer to organize my jewelry. And it's lightweight too. And so another preference that I do enjoy using is a luggage holder. So they make these little plastic luggage holders that you can print out your pass on for your luggage. So a lot of cruise lines will have you print out paper that shows where your luggage is supposed to go. And so you give your luggage to the porter when you arrive, and they see the paper and they know where it goes. And so But if you're flying in before your cruise, you don't want to have that paper on your luggage. It's just going to get just ripped off. And so a lot of people, you're not going to put that on until right before you get on the cruise ship. And so when you have that little plastic luggage tag holder, you can just fold up your paper and stick it in that luggage tag holder. And then you can just take it out, after your luggage is brought to your room. And so it just makes it a lot easier, and you're not having to scramble around the hotel trying to find a stapler to place your, paper of luggage tag that you had to print out for your cruise. And so they do make them for different cruise lines that are specific to the right size that you'll need. But you could fold the paper as you need to. If you just buy one, it works for me. So, and then one thing that's super important is a waterproof bag. So when you're leaving the ship, you're going to want to take your passports with you for, coming back onto the ship. And so what if you get hit with rain? It gets, you don't want to take a chance on your passport getting wet and potentially ruined. And so having a waterproof bag for not just your passport, but for your phone too, or having two separate waterproof bags, one for phones and one for your passport. So it just keeps it safe in case you get into a rain shower, or for some reason you're on an expedition, maybe you were getting splashed on a boat, or not expedition, but excursion, getting splashed on a boat, or certain things like that. So it's just good to keep it safe, because the last thing you want is to be getting your passport wet and ruined, or your phone. So you got to keep all those pretty pictures so you can go back and look at them later. But I hope this was a help for you, and I hope this is something that some tips you might want to use for your cruise. But I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and happy travels.